I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of Michigan and to the state for which it stands, two beautiful peninsulas united by a bridge of steel, where equal opportunity and justice to all is our ideal.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Malama?
Here.
Shippers?
Here.
Spolman?
Here.
Stevens? Mayor Filkins?
Here.
For the record, Mayor, Councilmember Stevens, and members of council did contact me this afternoon to advise that he was actually out of state due to a medical-related issue with a close friend of the family.
Okay, sorry to hear that. All right, at this time, could we get an approval of the agenda? Oh, there's a request for amendment here, though.
Mayor Filkins, members of the City Council, I do have a request for an amendment with respect to an additional out-of-state travel request. If council would be willing to please add that under the city manager's report as item C.
I would also like to add something to the agenda, if I may. I'm not sure where, maybe in the city manager's report, but I would like us to address the ethics ordinance, if we may. I don't know where that would be appropriate.
Can add that as item D.
As a discussion item?
Yes, and more, I'd like to ask for some further action regarding the ethics ordinance.
Where are we putting that?
Under the manager's report is D. Okay, if nothing else, could we have
I
a
would
motion?
also, under D, I would like to excuse myself when that discussion takes place, please.
Is that
Oh, the ethics ordinance?
Yeah,
you'd probably do a request for recusal when you get down there.
all right.
Okay. We have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of an out-of-state travel request under the city manager's report and the ethics ordinance discussion and possible action underneath the city manager's report.
Support? Could I have a support for that?
Support.
Thank
Sorry.
you. Sandy, could we have a roll call?
Councilmember Shippers?
Yes.
Spolman?
Yes.
Stevens? Malama?
No,
Mayor Filkins?
Yes. Motion carries. At this time, we'll open the floor for public comments. We do ask that you keep the comments to 3 minutes, and when you come up, if you could please write down your name and your address. It is very helpful to Sandy for the records. If there are none, we'll go ahead and close public comment and move on to the approval of the consent agenda. We have the minutes of the regular meeting held on September 15th.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Spolman?
Yes.
Stevens? Malama?
yes,
Shippers?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes. Motion carries. And the next thing on our agenda is a proclamation. And I see that Sally is here from Oasis. Would you like to come forward? Yeah, you can come stand right next to me. Oh, kind of right next to me. Yes, I'm glad you're here. Okay. The proclamation this evening is declaring October 2014 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas 1 in 4 women experience violence from their partners in their lifetime, and whereas 1 in 3 teens experience sexual or physical abuse from a boyfriend or a girlfriend in 1 year, and whereas 516 instances of domestic violence were reported in Wexford County in 2013. And whereas the state of Michigan had 122 fatalities from domestic violence. And whereas the city of Cadillac supports the work of Oasis Family Resource Center to end domestic violence in our community. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Carla J. Filkins, Mayor of the City of Cadillac, and on behalf of the City Council, declare October 2014 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Cadillac, resolved 6th day of October 2014. We pledge to never remain silent about violence.
Thank you.
You are very welcome. Did you want to say something?
I will simply say,
I'd like to thank the mayor and everybody on the council and all of the staff at in Cadillac, because this community has been so supportive of our efforts, and I know that everybody in this room pledges with us to take a stand against domestic violence. And so I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you and your staff for all the work you do.
The next thing on our agenda is the community spotlight.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. I do appreciate this opportunity to share with the public as well as with the council, again, just a little information regarding the Bike Cadillac program. Next week at the annual Michigan Municipal League's convention, our program will be going up against, I believe, 6 or 7 other programs across the state. The City of Cadillac did receive the nomination for our region for this program being nominated as a Community Excellence Award contender. As a part of that, we put together a promotional video that'll be shown along, again, with the other 6 or 7 promotional videos from the other communities that are also trying to vie for the annual Community Excellence Award. We're very proud of this program. We're very proud of our chances here. We feel that we've had tremendous success. We also have a few slides that we'll show just shortly after the presentation. And Sandy, are you able to load up the YouTube? Yeah, the video. It's I believe 6 minutes to the T. So.
and both my boys are in it.
Yeah.
There's Ezra.
The Bike Cadillac program really is a grassroots program.
It's a great opportunity for not only people of Cadillac, but also campers of Mitchell State Park to rent a bike to go to the local community, go to downtown Cadillac, support the businesses in the area.
I think it is one of those tourist enhancements that people go, hey, look what's going on in Cadillac. There's an opportunity to ride a bike around. We don't have to take ours. We can get them there, and there's no cost.
This program would not be possible if it were not for the support and the collaboration with the Cadillac Community Foundation, the Mitchell State Park, the After 26 Cafe. They all really sincerely endorsed and adopted onto the concept of taking advantage of the ability of providing bikes, complimentary bikes, at a couple of locations in town for the use by anybody.
Well, the first thing they say is, how much does it cost? I think, nowadays everybody expects there to be a cost to something, and there is no cost. I mean, this is a freebie. This is something that the City of Cadillac and our facility, as well as the folks at the State Park, are doing to enhance our region, to enhance our area. And to get something for free is kind of unusual nowadays. And these bikes are free. And it's a great thing.
That's a common thing is people want to know, oh, you rent bikes, how much does it cost? But when we tell them it's free, it's definitely very rewarding for them. It's a good program, and definitely that free cost attracts a lot of people.
The city had a number of bikes in its possession that were abandoned. We thought, well, wouldn't this be a great opportunity if we could establish a program where we would provide the bikes free of charge for anybody, whether they're state park users or not, to be able to take one out for the day and take advantage of everything that Cadillac has to offer.
On weekends, I would say every bike is definitely being used. It's very common at 8 a.m. when we get someone in our campground office. People are in line waiting to get the bikes for the full day. And like I said, by 9, 10 o'clock, all those bikes are usually gone, out and about, and it's good to see kids, adults, riding around the park, also going out of the park, hitting up the local businesses during the day.
I mean, what a cool thing. We're not renting the bikes for a fee. They're actually using the bikes that the city has basically put outside of our cafe.
The program itself really kind of runs on autopilot once we get the bikes in place. The agencies, the State Park and the After 26 Cafe, both of which host our 2 current bike stations, really take on the administration of the program once it kicks off.
We have locks, we have keys, we give them to the person who's taking the bike, and when they bring it back later in the evening, even if we're closed, there's a way for them to leave the key with us, and then we inventory the bike in the morning. So it's a fairly simple process.
As long as they're a registered camper of the park, so we already have all their information, they just need to fill out a form, sign it, a waiver of liability, and then they have it until sunset. If they're not a camper, a local, from the local community, we do ask for a driver's license and credit card in case if something happens to the bike while they're out and about.
People love it. There's a lot of places to explore here. And whether you rent the bike in Cadillac proper and downtown in Cadillac and go down the bike path, or you rent the bike out at the state park and ride around the lake, there's so many beautiful things to see.
There's been a lot of use from locals in the area to use the bikes, and tourists have started using the bikes also to go around Lake Cadillac and to see more of the city.
We have heard people asking about getting more bikes to the locations. We've heard about, are there going to be, is there going to be additional locations put in place? We've heard feedback from people outside of our community, from other communities that have called and have said, hey, we've heard about this.
I think it gives people a healthier lifestyle. It also gets people out and about. Some of the people that come to the park aren't familiar with the area, so we're able to give them maps of the area. They can ride their bikes. It gets them out and about, supporting local businesses, gets them to the downtown parks, businesses, just brings more money into the economy, really.
If a community would like to do something similar, I'd say call me. Perhaps could give some tidbits, give some advice. I would say go for it. I think that try to get a community-based support. I think that really is key to the success.
The relationship with the city that we had prior to this continues on, and it definitely has been a very smooth program to run, and no issues at all, and look forward to doing it again in the future.
I would say any community that has an interest in this, don't hesitate. There may be some bumps in the road, but believe me, it's well worth it for what it does for you as a community and what it does for the people who visit.
If you'd like to learn more about the Bike Cadillac program or have questions about starting a similar project in your community, call the City of Cadillac at 231-775-0181.
We have some pretty interesting information that we've gathered so far to date on the folks that are using the program, how they're coming from very far and wide. And Jerry, if you want to run down these slides, that'd be great.
Yeah, I thought you might find it interesting in terms of who's using the program or how it's been used. So we were able to, using the various forms that were generated, compile a few statistics, and I only have 4 or 5 slides here. So if you go to the next one, There are 2 bike stations, as already indicated. One's at Mitchell State Park, and one is at the After 26 Cafe, and essentially those ran for the summer months. Okay. Won't go into this, but it's an older map of various trails throughout the Cadillac area. That's been updated, by the way. But the individuals who pick up a bike get a copy of the trails map, so they know where the trails are. Okay. Interestingly, we've had over 1,200. This is last year or this year, I should say, 1,200 participants, and they represented. I thought this was great. 46 Michigan counties, 18 states, and 2 Canadian provinces. So. Do you know how many counties there are in Michigan, by the way? All right, so you can see we have a lot of counties represented. This could be a potential marketing tool for us. Go ahead. The top 10 counties in terms of users, Kent County was first, followed by Ottawa County. Third was tied Saginaw and Wexford County. Actually had some folks right here from town using them. Fourth was Oakland County. Fifth, Macomb. Genesee and Muskegon were tied, and then Bay and Grand Traverse County were tied. So those were the top ones. In terms of period of ridership, as you might well imagine, the 2 peak periods were July and August. Essentially, I think we only had a day or 2 of operation in May, so that's why you see such low ridership. And June wasn't so great this year, but nonetheless. And then we ended it at the beginning of September, but so you can see when the ridership happened. Okay. And just a sample of some of the outstate origins, real quickly: Chicago, Atlanta, Colorado Springs, Louisiana, California, Vermont, Nevada, and we even had folks from Halifax and Nova Scotia who used the program. So go ahead. Anyways, we put together a little flyer, which Marcus is also going to be distributing at the upcoming MML conference. And like we say on the flyer, enjoy trail scenery and more. Ride the Clam River Greenway, circle Lake Cadillac, navigate the White Pine Trail, experience Cadillac, Michigan. So, thank you. Any questions?
You guys did a great job with that.
How long ago, Jerry, did we start talking about that? Wasn't it about 2 years ago?
About 2.5 years ago.
2.5
Yeah,
years.
the first year we had 1 bike station. That was at Mitchell State Park. And then last year, the After 26 Cafe asked if they could have one, so we put one there. And since that time, we've had a few other businesses, particularly in the downtown, that have asked if they could have a station. So we're looking into that for next year.
So it was 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was about that.
Maybe we should look into a grant from someplace to get helmets to go with the bikes.
We actually thought about the issue with helmets, and we did think about that. Is it gets into without talking a lot.
Yes.
You've got to. It's like shoes.
Right.
You've got to spray them, clean them, and that sort of thing. And we did find that a lot of the users actually, particularly at Mitchell State Park, actually had helmets. But you're right. It would be we think advantageous, but it's an issue in terms of the program
storage,
itself.
You'd have to store them indoors and things
Yeah.
like that. So maybe on the brochure or something, if we do it again, to encourage people to bring their own helmet. I don't know. It's just
Well, if they're repeat customers at the state park, which I think a lot of people are, they'll know that, and then they'll bring their helmet next time. But yeah, it'd be nice if we could figure out how to include helmets.
Right.
melon
We're
protect.
looking at the data, again, from the standpoint of how can we market Cadillac?
Right.
I think just the program itself markets Cadillac.
Well, and your data is probably a reflection of the users at the state park
Right.
also.
Right.
Where they come from. and
Right.
We're just learning more about.
Right. Shows you the importance of Mitchell State Park, by the way,
It does.
in terms of attracting visitors to our area.
Yeah. I think, we took this program from another city's idea and we made it our own, with our own little tweaks. I think we worked with the state park because they were easy to work with and it was an opportunity. Not very many cities have a state park right next to them.
Right.
And that worked out really well, and I'm so glad we took the next step and expanded it this year into the city of Cadillac also with the After 26 project. I'm really glad that worked out.
Another thing we did this year that we didn't do last year was we have children's bikes.
Yeah.
We found that there was a need for children's bikes. little kids, even with training wheels. So we had a few, through the Community Foundation, they gave us a grant, and we were able to purchase some children's bikes. We, as you know, most of the bikes we get from this program are ones that the police department secures through various reasons, but they seem to never secure children's bikes, so we ended up having to purchase some of those, so.
And we want to thank our local bike shop, McLean's Cycle Shop, for doing the maintenance.
And they were mentioned, by the way, on the
And
credits.
If I may also thank the Cadillac Community Foundation and the Youth Advisory Council. That was the part of the Community Foundation that developed the grant that we received going into this current year that we're in now.
To get the youth bikes, to get the...
And was there recognition for the producer of that?
I believe at the end,
Okay, great.
but I don't recall. And that was
Okay.
Eric Lotilla.
Yep. Okay.
So I think in the summertime, Mr. Homier should be riding his bike from Grand Rapids up here and back.
On the White Pine Trail.
On the White Pine Trail.
We'll rent one to you.
For free.
You can take one home tonight.
You just need to have it back by sundown. Quick round trip.
Tell your wife you'll be a little bit later.
Thank you all very much. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is communications.
Yes, the first request is from Jamie Girding for the closure of Lake Street between Harris and Cass on October 25th from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. for the Zombie Walk for Charity.
I'll make a motion to approve the closure of Lake Street, unless is she here? No? Okay, then I'll make a motion to approve the closure of Lake Street between Harris and Cass on October 25th from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. for the Zombie Walk for Charity.
Support.
Sandy, could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Stevens, Malama,
Yes.
Shippers,
Yes?
Spolman.
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries.
The next request is from Judy Emmons for the display of a banner from October 27th to November 10th, 2014 for the Cadillac Viking Band Booster Craft Show.
Motion to approve the display of a banner for the Cadillac Vikings Band Booster Craft Show, October 27th to November 10th.
Support.
Sandy, could we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Malama,
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes?
Spolman.
Yes.
Stevens, Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries.
The next request is from Don Casey for the closure of Elk Alley from Harris to the south corner of the Clam Lake Brewery property line on October 25th from 9 a.m. to midnight for the Backyard Birthday Bash. It's their one-year anniversary.
I'll make a motion to approve the closure of Elk Alley from Harris to the south corner of Clam Lake Brewery property line on October 25th from 9 a.m. to midnight for the Backyard Birthday Bash, and congratulations to Clam Lake Beer Company.
Support and a question.
Okay.
When I was looking over the information in our packet, it looked like they're introducing a beer that they are brewing. Does that mean they're up and brewing now? They will be?
I don't know that that's true yet. I think that it's not made there, but it's their beer.
It's their beer, but it's being made somewhere.
Yeah, they can't make it there just yet.
Okay.
But it's their brewmaster. And
That's true.
Are they also going to be, no, never mind.
I guess the motion really should be for the Clam Lake Beer Company instead of brewery.
It's the beer company.
That's a little technicality, but.
Yeah. Clam Lake Beer Company, I'll amend my
support.
Okay, Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers.
Yes.
Spolman.
Yes.
Stevens, Malama.
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes, motion carries. Then we have the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. This first item has to deal with the request from a resident to house and breed rabbits. Rabbits, per our code, are classified as a livestock item. Jerry, I believe you've got a couple of slides on this as well.
We have some slides.
Yeah. The council communication does list the various conditions. That's a nice picture that we are setting forth this evening, along with our recommendation for support.
Okay, as indicated, the request is for the housing of livestock, in this case rabbits, and the applicant is Christopher Woodley. Chris is sitting right back here, so I'm sure if you have any questions, he'd be happy to answer. And the address at which the rabbits will be housed is 441 Selma Street here in Cadillac. And with that, if I could have you, or I can use the clicker if it works, but go ahead. I'll quickly go through some of these. Essentially, Section 628 of the city codes stipulates that no one can keep livestock in the city except with the permission of the city council. And under the code, rabbits are classified specifically as livestock. And what the code says under 630 is that it's your responsibility to specify the place where they may be kept and the number, in this case, of animals that may be housed. And according to the ordinance, it says as determined as reasonable. So, okay. Essentially, the request is as follows. The applicant wants to house a small breeding group of rabbits consisting of 1 male and 2 females and their associated litters. As indicated that they would be keeping no more than 2 litters at any given or any one time. The average litter size is 6 to 8 young. And the rabbits that will be housed and bred are a breed known as the silver fox. And again, I'm sure Chris can elaborate on this if you'd like him to. Go ahead.
Was that a picture of a silver fox?
That was a picture of one. You're going to see another photo, so yeah. Can't turn it down when you see the photos. He will maintain rabbit hutches, cages, and I won't get into the sizes, but essentially those sizes are consistent with both the standards of the federal government as well as the various associations that deal with the keeping of rabbits. Second bullet there, that the female rabbits themselves, they'll be housed with their litters until the young are about 6 weeks. Then he'll separate the rabbits. The young rabbits will be males and females in different cages. They'll be housed together until they're about 10 to 12 weeks, and then after they attain an appropriate weight, and again, I'll let Chris tell you what that weight is, the rabbits will be taken outside the city and will be humanely butchered. And the rabbits are to be used for personal consumption by the folks here at the house. So go ahead, Sandy. This doesn't really show up too well. Just I've circled. That's the location of the home. Basically, what the aerial shows is that it's a residential neighborhood, heavy single-family residential. Go ahead. Here is the. This is the home. This will be a side view. You see the garage in the back. And the rabbits will be kept or maintained on the other side of the garage. In fact, the next slide, there's the back of the garage. The yard in this location is surrounded by a privacy fence, so essentially you won't really be able to see the rabbit hutches, the rabbit cages from off-site. Go ahead. We did, without reading this, we did send as a courtesy notice to all of the abutting property owners. We informed them of the request. When the meeting was going to be held and so forth, so if they wanted to show up or if they wanted to give us a call or email, we haven't received any communications from any of the neighbors. So went both to the property owners as well as if there was one rental, I believe, it went to the neighbors or the residents as well. So we tried to make sure people knew what was going on. Go ahead, Sandy. The city code basically stipulates that the zoning administrator shall provide you with a report, which we did. And essentially, there's nothing that we found that would necessarily, prohibit or indicate to you that this shouldn't be approved. If you do approve it, and we have, I think, a series of 12 conditions. Basically, these conditions are right from the applicant's request, so we pull those right there. The number of adult rabbits shall be limited to 3, which is what the applicant has indicated. No more than 2 litters shall be maintained on the site at any time, which is what he's indicated. The third one just deals with the location of the rabbit housing, which is to the rear behind the garage, which is where he intends to do it. Go ahead. The rabbit housing shall meet or exceed the standards of the United States Animal Welfare Act of 1966, which according to his specs will. Number 5, rabbit housing shall be maintained in a sanitary, dry, draft-free condition and shall be capable of supporting the livestock in a healthy manner throughout all periods of inclement weather. 6, all feed shall be stored in rodent-proof containers, and containers shall be stored in the garage of the site, which is what he plans to do. 7, all waste shall be properly disposed of through composting, and I believe that's what he intends to do, burial or removal off-site via lawful means. 8, there shall be no on-site retail or butchering of rabbits. Number 9, approval shall be limited to the applicant and shall not run with the land. So if the folks move and the new folks want to keep rabbits, they'd have to come back. Unlike typical zoning regulations which run with the land, this is a little different. Almost done here. Number 10, approval shall be subject to a periodic inspection of the site by city staff. And typically it's like with the chickens. We do it once in a while. We want to make sure that that the applicants are maintaining compliance with the standards. But as the condition says, obviously we would notify the folks that we're coming over. We just don't show up and trespass and go behind the house, so to speak. So, but we just want to let them know that we do have the right as the city to come out periodically if we feel it's necessary to do an inspection. Number 11, failure to comply with the above conditions shall void the approval of the application. And the last one, I don't know. We tried to find out, if there were more stringent state or federal regulations regarding housing, transport, butchering, distribution, and so forth, and consumption of rabbits. We weren't able to really get a lot of information. But if there are more stringent state or federal regulations, then they would obviously trump ours. So those are the conditions, and those are 2 more of the silver fox rabbit. So, and again, the applicant, Chris, is here if you have any questions of him or myself.
Okay. And I think we have somebody from the neighborhood here.
Hi. Okay, I live right next door to Chris, and I got this letter from you in the mail. First of all, the rabbits are considered a large breed. And the bucks weigh 9 to 11 pounds, and the does weigh 10 to 12 pounds, and they have 8 to 12 babies each time in their litters. And anyway, the fence there is on the one side is my fence to my backyard. And Chris has 2 or 3 cats, a dog, a boa constrictor in the basement. He's raising chickens in his basement. And he has, I believe, 8 turtles that are considered wildlife. And he keeps those in the basement in the wintertime. And he has 2... I guess they're turtle pens along the side of his garage there. And I mean, it's just, he's turning the neighborhood into a farm and wildlife preserve. I've called the Department of the DNA, and they had me call the the Agriculture Department, and they said that's going to bring in more predators into the neighborhood, which we have them now. And he even said, well, he wouldn't care to have something like that. There's thousands of acres of farmland around Cadillac and, northern Michigan, and if they wanted to raise animals, farm animals, wild animals, whatever, they should have moved on a farm. They just moved in last August, or a year ago, August. And I don't know, would any of you like this moved in next door to your home? That's why, people move into town. Not to have a farm and all that stuff next door to them.
Okay, thank you.
And I thank you. Do I sign this paper or anything?
Yeah. With your name and address, please.
Okay.
Name and address.
Oh, and I had another neighbor, his name is Robert Tuttle, and he was going to come tonight with me, and he wasn't able to come. But he also said to tell them, or tell the council, that he feels the same way as I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I would just like to say that as far as keeping all the animals, I do have a pet snake in my basement. It's a ball python. It's the smallest breed of python. They're about 4 feet long, so the snake is about this long, and that's as big as it's going to get. I've been keeping animals for a very long time. As I noted in my proposal to the city, I have an undergraduate degree in zoology. I have my master's degree in biology. I am very, very particular about how I take care of animals. The animals that I'm planning on keeping will be confined to a small area, and I'm planning on keeping them under very sanitary conditions. Is the slideshow still available for taking a look at the side of my yard? Because you can see the turtle enclosures from that. I'd be happy to point that out. All right, so you can see from the side there, I've started working on a garden on the side of my house, which is allowed under city ordinances. And then in the back, the wood structures, those are the outdoor turtle enclosures. I do keep enclosures in the basement too, and I have all the proper heating and husbandry set up for them there. As far as I understand, turtles, these animals are Russian tortoises. This is a captive bred population. These are pets. These are certainly not wild animals. Granted, if they were put in the wild, they would probably die very shortly because they have no experience with that. As far as attracting predators to the animal, to the area, as long as you don't provide a readily accessible food source, it does not add anything to increase predator populations. That's why things like the rodent controls as far as keeping feed out, that's in place so that you don't cause any type of spike in the population, so there's no access to that readily available food source. With the rabbits, if the predators aren't able to get to the rabbits, there's no reason why they would actually supplement that population. If anything is contributing to our high predator population, especially hawks, we have a particularly high squirrel population in the area, and they're all over the place because people feed the squirrels. They're rodents, they reproduce quickly, they have a readily accessible food source. That's probably going to attract more predators to the area than caged rabbits would. So, and I'd be happy to take any questions if anybody had it. Yes?
What do you do in the winter with the rabbits when it gets really cold? Like
they're outdoor. They're a breed tolerant to being outdoors, so they have very thick fur and they would stay outside.
And do you have chickens in your basement?
No. No, well, I shouldn't say no. I'm not planning on keeping them outside. My mom is working on establishing a hobby farm, and so I'm taking care of the chicks right now, and then they will be going there as soon as they're of age. But I know they're not being allowed to keep outside in the city property, so I'm just raising them for 3 to 4 weeks, and then they are going away.
Currently, chickens are not allowed short of council approval.
Without a permit.
Okay. I wasn't aware that was, I thought that was to be kept within the yard. Yeah. But I can remove those.
Yes.
That would be good.
Even like chicks that are hatched that are just, because like they do that in the classrooms. And then keep them for a while. How does that work? Till they're ready to go to the farm.
Keep them in the schools? Yeah, presumably the schools would be permanent as well. Unless there's an exclusion in the ordinance, which I don't believe there is.
Because they hatch every spring, the kindergartens hatch out eggs and then keep the chicks until they're ready to go to the farm. Keep them in the incubator and keep them. A bunch of 5-year-old lawbreakers.
Yeah. That would be good to know too. I teach biology class at Baker, so if we ever do a similar project, that would be good to know.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Does anyone have any other questions? Okay, thank you.
And just to reiterate, under the conditions that were provided both in the packet as well as part of the slide presentation, the recommendation would be to support.
Okay.
Okay, a motion?
I got to say that when my daughter Era lived at my house, we had a lot more animals than it sounds like he has, and she tended them all, and even the 6-foot iguana called Twinkle Toes that would escape into the backyard up into the tree, and we just bring them back, and it's not like they're going to be noisy neighbors, I don't think. So I would like to make a motion to approve the conditions, to approve the application to maintain the housing of rabbits, along with the conditions as presented by Mr. Adams.
I'd like to, I'd like us to consider another condition. And maybe I should have spoke before you put the motion out there.
Then I withdraw my motion.
Number 11 says that failure to comply with the above conditions shall void approval of the application, but I'm wondering if we could just have, like, let's say we hadn't thought of something. That we should have a stipulation in there that we can revoke this at any time.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. It would be something unforeseen.
May I add something to that? If that is a stipulation, if it could be included to allow me some type of notice, if it doesn't get canceled, have a reasonable amount of time to be able to reload.
Certainly.
That we may deal with them.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Maybe
Can
I'm
you
off
just,
base with that, but I...
doesn't it have to be that if you, can you just say that we can just take this back whenever we want? Can we just take it back whenever we want? For any reason?
Typically, no, but it depends on the what I'll call the vested interest in the what I'll call the license, right? Because what we're dealing with here is like permission, like a permit of some sort. Not traditionally like a zoning permit, but some other permit. So you don't have the same problems with like a legal non-conforming use that you might have with a zoning issue. So, but typically, even with some other property right, vested property right in a permit such as this, you would want to provide notice and opportunity to be heard, okay? So if there are any particular problems that you identified that you can revoke that, let me give you another example. You know, we've allowed, the city has allowed encroachments into the right-of-way, and we have addressed those as a license to encroach in the right-of-way that is revocable at will. And that's how, you know, if you want to do that, that's how this should be, with notice and opportunity to be heard, why you shouldn't revoke it, okay? So, but you don't want to allow too much discretion into the process, that there should be objective reasons why you might want to revoke it. So unanticipated issues with predators or failure to follow the conditions or some other anticipated problem.
So could that be like a 13? And, or do we need to have another thing, another condition? Does that have to be in the conditions? Or can we just do that no matter what?
No, I would make it a condition to granting the permit, that it may be revoked after notice and opportunity to be heard.
So that would be 13.
Maybe revoked, just straight up revoked after notice?
After notice.
And with opportunity to.
Maybe revoke for
Permission.
unforeseen conditions.
I was just going to add, just to clarify, number 13 perhaps simply says that this permission to house rabbits may be revoked after notice and the opportunity to be heard by the applicant. Does that sound fair enough?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
And that would be it. So that would be the addition.
Permission to house rabbits may be revoked after notice and opportunity to be heard by applicant.
Mm-hmm.
Then, if it's okay, I will amend my motion to approve the request to maintain the housing of rabbits in accordance with the 13 conditions as amended.
Support.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Spelman.
Yes.
Stevens. Malama.
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes.
Mayor Folkin.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This next item on our agenda is a request for out-of-state travel. Bear with me just one second. This is a request for out-of-state travel to visit the IDEX laboratories as well as to be a part of an audit and a tour that they're going to be conducting. Our laboratory supervisor, Amy Vale, was invited to tour the IDEX facility. Amy is in our utilities department. Did I skip an item?
No, I'm sorry. Can I interrupt you 1 second? Back to the last item. There is, I do have the code in front of me. Under section 6-30, there is a provision that says the city council may revoke such permit whenever it may deem it fit and proper to do so upon good cause shown. So I think you already have that authority under your, under that section of the code.
Okay.
So, but which will fit with the notice and opportunity. I just want you to realize that you have to then have good cause in order to revoke that. But I would suggest to you that good cause could include anything detrimental to the health, safety, and welfare. Okay?
Thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Good.
Back to the out-of-state travel request. The request is to provide an opportunity for our laboratory supervisor to, again, take a part of an audit, look at the equipment. All the expenses for the trip are being covered by the provider. We currently do use the provider. Is that correct, Jeff? What? We currently use the IDEX equipment?
Yeah, we currently do use some of their processes. Yeah.
And the recommendation is to allow for the trip.
I'll make a motion to approve the out-of-state travel for the city's laboratory supervisor to participate in a tour and audit of the Call Alert products at the IDEX facility in Westbrook, Maine on October 17th.
Support.
Sandy,
I
could we
just want to say I've heard all sorts of wonderful, amazing things about Amy Vale. She does a great job.
Good.
Good.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Malama.
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes.
Spelman.
Yes.
Stevens. Mayor Folkin.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This next item we added, this is item C. This is another out-of-state travel request. Just recently, Tara Vedler, our Assistant to the Public Works Director, was invited to visit the John Deere manufacturing facility. This facility is located in Davenport, and the recommendation would be to allow her to attend this opportunity. As I think all of you know, the city does utilize heavy equipment and machinery. We are in the process of trying to determine how to best look at a new loader, in fact, and this is an opportunity in which John Deere is again going to be picking up the travel-related costs.
I think it's a great opportunity.
I'll make a motion to approve the out-of-state travel request to allow Assistant to the Public Works Director, Tara Vedler, to attend the tour and training at the John Deere facility in Davenport, Iowa on October 15th.
Support.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers?
Yes.
Coleman?
Yes.
Stevens? Melama?
Yes.
Mayor Folkins?
Yes. Motion carries.
Okay. That brings us to item D, the ethics item that was added to the agenda.
Yes.
I wanted to recuse myself.
Wait a minute.
Right
You
outside.
can't just leave. You need
I
to
think I
ask.
can.
You need to ask to be recused, otherwise you're not doing your job.
I'm not doing my job. I made it very clear, my position on that. I'll be right outside.
You still think about it?
This is something none of us would like to be discussing, although some of us are going to stay and discuss this. It's been brought to my attention that there have been more ethics violations that have been filed with the city. Since we have approved this ethics ordinance, it has been used every single time as a political hammer. This is not in the spirit of an ethics ordinance. This is in the spirit of continuing to divide and create discourse and dysfunction within our city. And I would ask that, I don't know what the protocol for this is, but I think we need to examine our ethics ordinance and perhaps repeal it. There is nothing within that ordinance that, if anything that is done that is illegal, is not covered in other ways. And right now, the ability for people to just file one ethics violation after another, from the very first one, purely politically motivated, I find it just appalling. And I don't know, Mr. Homier, what do we need to do to get this ball rolling?
There are two options. One is repeal. In order to repeal, you repeal an ordinance by an ordinance, repealing it.
Okay.
We would bring back an ordinance and it would be adopted in the normal course. That is, you set a public hearing and then have a public hearing and then take action on that proposed ordinance. The other would be an ordinance amending that ordinance to make changes if you thought changes would cure the problems that you want to cure or address. So those are really the two options.
Are there ways to cure, to amend it? Would you please, can I ask that you please look into and make a recommendation as to how you see the best course ahead to deal with this issue? This is getting so ridiculous.
Sure.
I'm just, and from my fellow council members, as well as, the first ethics violation was filed by Councilmember Melama, who won't even discuss this with us. This is not how you do business. Period, the end. Thank you very much. I'm done.
So our ordinance says that if, anytime anything's brought up that says this is an ethic ordinance violation, we have to look at it.
Correct.
And it's in that realm that you're saying it's being used.
Yes.
It's sort of a two-step process. So one deals with ethics complaints against employees, and then there's another section dealing with ethics complaints against elected officers
and
appointed officers. Okay, so there's this two-step process under each of those. They vary a little, but the first one is the same, and that is the ethics board, which is defined by the ordinance, must first determine whether there's a reasonable belief that a violation occurred. And then if there is a reasonable belief that a violation has occurred, then it moves on to a hearing stage. So there's an initial review stage and then a hearing stage. So that's the way it's framed right now.
Okay.
But you're right, filing of a complaint triggers that first duty to review.
Right, so it appears like if somebody's not happy with the way something's going, or if they don't like an answer that they've received in another way, then they do this. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
That's what it appears to be, that,
and then we're having allegations that how we're operating the ethics ordinance hearing isn't appropriate, right?
Correct.
Everybody and their brother has been alleged to have some sort of conflict of interest.
Right, so basically the only way to deal with any kind of ethics violation, according to those who are filing these, is to spend more money and hire outside people to review these and take it outside the purview of the city, take it outside the realm of the ordinance. It's become, sometimes a good idea.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to argue that we want to be ethical and that we are sitting in our seats and we have ethical behavior, as well as all the employees work ethically with integrity and honesty.
Absolutely.
But just because you don't agree with the decision somebody makes doesn't mean that you have to take it in front of an ethics ordinance or an ethics hearing.
I think it was, I may be wrong, but I doubt it. I think it might have been Beckett who said, either that or Thomas More, one of those two that said that be careful when you make laws, and you have to consider how they will be administered in the hands of evil intent. And I think we're experiencing that with this. That was a paraphrase, by the way.
Well,
don't go looking it up on Google. I didn't get it exact. But.
Well, I think it was Mike Homier who said this is not a good idea.
Yeah, it was.
And that's because I have seen what happens in other jurisdictions. I have a lot of clients who thought that it was a good idea. And it starts that way, as a good idea. And then for whatever reason, it turns into a political weapon of some sort. And I'm going through the same exact issue in another city that I represent. Same thing. They, over my objections, adopted an ethics ordinance, and it has been nothing but a calamity ever since, for much of the same reasons. And much of the conduct that you would think is unethical is already covered by state statute. That is, you can't enter into contracts with the city if you are providing a service, right, without proper disclosures. There are political activities that are covered by state statute. So a lot of, if not all of the conduct that is already in your ordinance is covered by state statute. Unfortunately, these ordinances, I have not yet seen one that's worked out well.
Interesting.
And I think when we did this, we did a survey of other communities around, and I don't think any of them had ethics ordinances, but...
There may have been a couple, but it was far and few between.
And the other jurisdiction that you mentioned that's having the same difficulties, what are they doing about it?
I think they're going to end up repealing it. And now we're in litigation with ourselves over it, essentially.
See, right. And that's where, this is, we're so quick to go to court, take it to court. This is why we have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars settling little local disputes, political arguments. It's time this stops. And I know I'm going to receive tons of fallout from this for people. This is not saying that I do not believe that everyone needs to be ethical and that I myself hold myself to the highest standards of ethics as well as those around me. But this is just ridiculous. This is not making us better people. Can we look into that, please?
Yeah, I will tell you that it consumes far too many resources that are better spent somewhere else. And that goes for a lot of issues. And, you know, I travel the state representing different communities. You're not alone in that, but there has to be a way to move beyond the political discord. There's no problem with having political discord, but it needs to be done in a respectful and meaningful way. It's not problematic to disagree with somebody else in your community or a fellow council member. It's how you react to that that defines you from another person who won't let things go. I think that, you know, for me, both as a city attorney and a member of your ethics board, you know, I think everybody here holds themselves to that standard. But it's the complaints that are being filed, not only the complaints, but the FOIA requests, the complaints, and everything else. People may not understand or realize that consumes city resources in terms of time, the money, direction, focus, and you end up spending all your time on these issues that are politically motivated rather than substantive. The city has some real substantive issues we need to deal with, like sewer and water, annexation issues, and the like, that you're all aware of, that should be the focus, and creating jobs and economic incentives.
It should have always been the focus.
Yeah, I'm frankly looking forward to getting back to some of those issues instead of constantly trying to put out one fire after another. That is, as you said, non-substantive. Didn't we figure we spent about $30,000 last year of our resources just trying to respond to FOIA requests?
That's a good estimate, yes.
Or we've spent that amount year-to-date this year? Yeah.
So,
yeah, I would support that you can move forward with taking a look at repealing that ordinance.
Is that a motion, Councilman?
Motion.
can I make a motion to we look into and start the process toward repealing the ethics ordinance?
Support.
Can we have a roll call, Stevie?
Councilmember Spolman?
Yes.
Stevens? Melama? Shippers?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is the adoption of ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Jerry, I wasn't sure, was there a slideshow for this one?
I don't know.
There will be at the next,
Don't
when this
tell them
comes
that
up.
we're done.
Okay.
Tonight's just a matter of...
He's not going to do his job.
Introducing the ordinance, setting the hearing.
Setting the hearing for November 3rd. Okay. Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. This item tonight before you is the request to set a public hearing for November 3rd, 2014, that will introduce an ordinance amending the city zoning map. This is with respect to property located at 1409 Wright Street. Our community development director did mention we'll have perhaps a few slides at the public hearing. But just in short, the motivation is to try and rezone the current classifications from light industrial and R2 to simply R2 single family throughout. R2 is one family residential. I'm not sure if there's any questions that you may have about this application tonight. This was already heard by the Planning Commission, and it is their recommendation for us to move forward with the process, which, as they stated at this point, is just to set the public hearing.
No question, just a comment that it's just really a sad commentary on our banking system these days that you can't get a loan for a piece of property because of something like this. I mean, it's already zoned residential. It just happens to have another zone with it.
Marcus, is there a meeting on November 3rd? You'd mentioned November 3rd.
That's a good question.
That is a good point. And actually, you are correct. That date, we don't have a meeting, so it would be November 17th.
Okay.
Thank you, Jerry.
I'll make a motion to adopt a resolution to introduce an, I gotta make sure I'm reading the right one, excuse me. And a resolution to introduce an ordinance amending the city zoning map and set a public hearing for November 17, 2014.
Support.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Stevens, Malama,
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes.
Spelman.
Yes.
Mayor Filkins.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the City Council. The next item is the request to adopt a resolution that will introduce an ordinance to amend Section 8-22 of the Cadillac City Code regarding our building inspection services and to set a public hearing for October 20th, 2014. The City of Cadillac has received conditional approval by the State Construction Codes Commission. The approval is with respect to the city once again providing building inspectional services. As a part of that approval, we do need to modify this section of code to specifically include the Michigan Plumbing Code, Mechanical Code, and Building and Electrical Code within the code provisions that we have already adopted. As a side note, we will also be looking at coming back as another condition to the City Council to adopt, or rather to appoint members to a Construction Board of Appeals. But at this point, we don't have that ready yet for Council to consider. But this is one of just a few steps that we need to do and is being recommended this evening. Again, we're looking at setting the public hearing for October 20th.
I will make a motion to adopt a resolution to introduce ordinance to amend Section 8-22 of the Cadillac City Code, Building Inspection Services Code, and set a public hearing for October 20th, 2014.
Support.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Malama,
Yes.
Shippers.
Yes.
Spelman.
Yes.
Stevens. Mayor Filkins.
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. For this last item, I'm going to introduce Owen Roberts to help walk us through the request to amend the fiscal year 2015 General Appropriations Act.
Yep, just two simple things at this point in the budget, and that is for two special projects that we need to just simply appropriate funds for. We've already bid the projects and awarded, and in fact you can see a pretty substantial amount of the construction is done, and as the big bills start coming in, we want to make sure we have these appropriations done. So the first one is for the playground. Primarily that's coming from contributions from private sources raised by the Cadillac Leadership Group, and then the grant from the state, the recreation grant. And that's a $60,000 grant, 45 from the state, and 15 as a local match. So it's just recognizing that much of our local match is going to be in services and things like that, a lot of which we've already been doing. Obviously, if you've driven by the park there, it looks great, and it's a lot of that work on the ground, not the structures, but the sidewalk and things were done by our people. And then just appropriating funds for the construction. Then same thing with the Rotary Park project. Going to do this just bit by bit as projects get done, and so we're recognizing contributions from private sources, which will be the Rotary funds as they come in, and then the grant that we received also from the believe it was an arts commission, and then some construction and engineering on that project as well. So just two special projects, and that's it for now. And this, I'll add, needs to be a 4/5 vote, I guess. So tonight that would be 4-0 to appropriate these funds.
And just for reference, the projects in the list that Owen was referring to was the last page of the communication.
I will make a motion to adopt a resolution to amend the fiscal year 2015 General Appropriations Act as presented by Mr. Roberts. Not to be confused with the Dread Pirate Robert.
That's right.
Sandy, could we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Shippers?
Yes.
Spelman?
Yes.
Stevens? Melama?
Yes.
Mayor Filkins?
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, we also have in our packs this evening minutes of boards and commissions that we can read through. We have the minutes from the Wexford County Airport Authority, the meeting that was held on September 21st, minutes of the Planning Commission meeting that was held on July 28th, and then minutes of the Downtown Development Authority meeting that was held on August 27th. At this time, we'll open the floor for public comments. If you would please provide your name and address and also keep your comments to 3 minutes, it would be greatly appreciated. If there are none, we'll go ahead and close public comment and move to good of the order. Councilmember Melama, we'll start with you.
Just a couple things. Our Cadillac Area Manufacturers meeting is October 14th, and it's going to be at Meyer Cadillac, and that has been a request from several of the manufacturers for several years, and it should be very, very interesting. The agenda should be out tomorrow. And the other thing is the ad for issues and ideas over coffee will be this Wednesday, and it'll be at Big Boy. And the only other thing I have is a comment on the weather. It's too early.
Councilmember Spelman.
I wanted to thank Bruce for working it out so that North Boulevard got patched up during the pathway project out at the canal. And North Boulevard's been one of those streets that really, really, really needs fixing. And I think to do it right, it's going to take a lot of money, but he somehow figured out a way to get the worst part of it done when they paved that new pathway for bikes and the parking lot down there. So thank you. It's such a huge improvement. It'll be really appreciated this winter.
Okay, that's it. And Councilmember Shippers.
All right, I've got a few things. Councilmember Spelman and myself and Mr. Petch have been meeting with the county regarding the Cadillac Wexford Transit Authority, working on tweaking the agreement, and we had expressed some wishes here as council, and we've been putting those forth at these meetings, and we're meeting again at the end of the month, and things seem to be moving forward. And we should have things together by the time we all vote for the millage renewal for the transit, a service that's essential in our community, by the way. I also want to report that we've been meeting and going over, putting together our bylaws and guidelines and protocol, et cetera, for the Mayor's Youth Council. We're meeting again tomorrow to finalize things, and this should be, I'm hoping, rolled out before the end of the month. And we'll be looking for young people in our city who would like to take part in a Cadillac Mayor's Youth Council to help have your voice and the voice of your peers heard in our community. I'd also like to, I don't have the ordinances in front of me, the code in front of me, but Mr. Homier, what is the legal procedure for recusing oneself from council business?
I do have one more thing there.
Okay. Well, why don't we?
Do you want me to do that
Yeah,
while he's
go
looking
ahead.
that up?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. I was reminded this weekend from Councilmember Stevens, who was stopped downtown by a resident asking about the new ordinance, I think is the way it was communicated, regarding removal of snow from sidewalks. And so we've been having a little bit of discussion about that, but I did have a chance to look up the minutes from that meeting. And the motion that we made, and this was in March, was that the city manager would direct his staff to develop a thorough communication and enforcement plan for sidewalk snow removal during the upcoming winter season and beyond. So just a reminder to us and to the staff that winter is upon us, and we're looking forward to having some really good communications related to residents and businesses, property owners' responsibility in helping clear the paths of snow and ice so that people can walk from place to place in our community. And the fact that we do have an ordinance on the books, and how do we enforce it. You know, some of the suggestions that we made at the time was taking a look at some of the best practices in other communities. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that from staff soon.
Okay, thank you.
So there's a provision, and it's section 3.5. I can't tell you off the top of my head whether it's the charter or the code. I think it's the charter, but they've redone Unicode somewhat. It's a little different format. It's not user friendly. This is what section 3.5 says. It's entitled Organization and Rule of the Council. The council shall determine its own organization, rules, order of business, and standard of conduct subject to the following provisions. A journal of the proceedings of each meeting shall be kept by the clerk in the English language and shall be signed by the presiding officer and clerk of the meeting. B, each member of council shall vote on all questions unless excused by unanimous consent of the remaining members present. Any member refusing to vote, except when so excused, shall be guilty of misconduct in office. C, a vote upon all matters before the council shall be taken by a yes and no vote and entered upon the records, except that, where the vote is unanimous, it shall only be necessary to so state. No member of the council shall vote on any questions in which he has a financial interest other than the common public interest or conflict of interest, or on any question concerning his own conduct. On all other questions, each member who is present shall vote when his name is called unless excused by the unanimous consent of the remaining members present. And subsection D, the proceedings of the council or a brief summary thereof prepared by the clerk showing the substance of each separate proceedings of the council shall be made available to the public within 10 days. So, in short, members of council have an obligation to vote unless excused or unless he or she has a conflict of interest.
And is that conflict of interest to be determined by the individual? So if there's something that I don't want to discuss, I can say I have a conflict of interest? Or does this need to be something that is vetted by the council?
It doesn't say. So it's not an issue in which it states clearly or expressly who determines who has a conflict of interest. It simply says that a member of council may not vote where he or she has a conflict of interest. Conflict of interest, generally speaking, is determined by whether or not there's a financial interest in the outcome of any particular vote. Whether there is a financial gain or personal gain in the outcome of any particular vote.
But doesn't it also say that the full council has to vote on whether or not somebody has a conflict of interest?
what it says is each member of council shall vote on all questions unless excused by unanimous consent of the remaining members present. The next section says that no member of the council shall vote on any question in which he has a financial interest other than the common public interest or conflict of interest, or on any questions concerning his own conduct. On all other questions, each member who is present shall vote when his name is called, unless excused by the unanimous consent of the remaining members present. So I think that, and you'll see this typically or in particular, the statutes dealing with planning commission members, because the Planning Enabling Act was revised in, I think, 2008, in which it made it an affirmative duty of planning commission members to not only declare a conflict of interest when one existed, but also to abstain from voting on those. And so I think inherently on each member of the council there is a responsibility to determine for yourself, is there a conflict, and to disclose such a conflict if one should exist. But I also believe that because you have an affirmative duty to vote, they have to be real conflicts of interest, and not conflicts of interest where you just want to abstain from voting on matters because it may be uncomfortable or inconvenient if you don't want to vote. So I think that conflict of interest sometimes gets used as an excuse not to vote on matters that you don't care to vote on. So you have to be, each member of council has to be cognizant of that fact as well.
Thank you. Then what I think I would like to say is that without knowing what the discussion was going to be about, I am very disappointed that a fellow council member walked out on a discussion that I requested. And I find that kind of misconduct inexcusable. That's all.
Okay. Marcus?
I would like to bring to everybody's attention that we're going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony on Thursday at 4 o'clock. Bruce, is that going to be on site, or is that whereabouts? Do you know where we're meeting? East end of the canal?
In the parking lot, we did.
Okay, so it'll be east end of the canal near the newly redone parking lot. This is to celebrate the finishing of the North Boulevard Trail Connection project, which was a great collaborative project between the city and the Michigan State Park System through a DNR grant. We will also be looking at having another ribbon cutting type event once the pavilion restroom facilities are finished as well. Those are the facilities near the Rotary Performing Arts Pavilion, and this would essentially commemorate the first big milestone being completed with respect to the renovation of those facilities and the project itself.
And what about the playground? Is there going to be one for that too?
There will be. However, with respect to the new playground, that project is being spearheaded by the Cadillac Leadership Class. And so as soon as we have information from them as to when they're going to be hosting some festivities, we'll certainly make that public and get that out to everybody. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of things that I had this evening was that I was not unhappy to see when I was heading to the meeting this evening, the roadblock on Laurel Street. I was very excited. So that would be nice to have that street done for so many who travel through there. I did want to give a shout out to our Fire Marshal, Anthony Wolf. We had a we'll call it a lack of planning, but we had to intervene and help them get a permit to be able to do the fireworks at the homecoming game last weekend. And Rich Giddens from the school said that Anthony just did a tremendous job working with them and making that happen. And for next year, they're going to put it in a tickler file, and they're going to start a couple months early. But I just wanted to give a shout out to Anthony for that. And then also the work that he did with the folks for the Craft Beer Festival, making certain that that space that was occupied by 1,000 and some people was safe, and very much appreciated. I'd also like to thank Eric Watilla. I think he did a fantastic job on that video for Bike Cadillac that we're going to have the opportunity to present at the conference up in Marquette. And we've all got our fingers crossed. And whether we win the award or we don't win the award, I think that Cadillac won with that program. So, and finally, I would like to say to Marcus, I also very much appreciate your efforts in keeping the good news and the good things that are happening in the city of Cadillac out front with our friends in the media. There are so many things going on that make a difference in this community, and I'm proud to pick up the paper or see on the news what good things are going on here. So thank you for those efforts. And last but not least, I wanted to keep our core, our guiding behaviors out in front of us. And this evening, at the top of our agenda, was one of them. We support each other in serving our community. It's very important, and we appreciate seeing that at the top of the agenda. And with that, we'll go ahead and we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all.